Well, hello there. I'm Lighty, and it's that time of the year again. It's time for a new league, time for a new expansion, time to pick my new starting build. And of course, we'll be spinning the wheel today, and we'll go over what the builds are on the wheel. And just because I get one build doesn't mean I won't play the other ones. The league's a long time, it's 3 months, and going by their current release schedule, sometimes it's 4, 5, 6 months. So there's plenty of time to re-roll and play different things. But we will be deciding our league starter today. Let's take a look at some of the highlights from the wheel and how they may affect the game and what cool things are coming up for the new ascendancies. So on the Echoes of the Atlas page, they go over how there's some new updates to pretty much every single ascendancy. Some of them are pretty big, like even things like Occultist got some huge buffs across the board. Pretty major reworks for Hierophant, including this cool thing with the power charges and the new Arcane Surge stuff. And then, Slayer got redirected in a lot of ways. Deadeye got buffed. So there's a lot of cool options. I don't think it really changes a whole lot what was the best builds. Let's take a look at some of the good ones that we saw from Heist League. So a good way to check what builds were like, pretty poppin' when it came to the beginning of this league is ones that will operate in solo self-found within the first week of the league, and which ones were being proficient during that time. So if we check what builds were like, we'll say the highest level during that first week, you'll see a couple of trends pop up. So Glacial Cascade Mines was a really big league. I mean, Dot, Caustic Arrow, Earth Shatter with the bleeds and impales. Stormbrand was really strong. A couple of Bane builds. So a lot of Dot builds. There's more Bladefall Blade Blast was really good. Whether it's playing as a Templar, playing as a Chieftain, playing as a Assassin, your standard Cold Dot. So like all your basic starter Dot builds are good. All your basic Caster Trap builds are good. And then a couple of new ones like the Earth Shatters. But your standard builds have pretty much been good for the past 3-4 leagues, and that really isn't going to change. Now the Trade League tells a little bit of a different tale. You'll start to see some builds pop up at the end of the first week of a different variety. So if you take a look at one right here, Aura Stacking. Aura Stacking is the elephant in the room, and it's been around since Delirium League. And I know what you're thinking, Lighty, there's no way Aura Stacking won't get nerfed this league. But if history is any indication, it was going to get nerfed in Delirium, didn't. It was going to get nerfed in Harvest, didn't. Why would the end of Heist be any different? You tell me. I think Aura Stacking is going to be, if it exists, like it has been the past, year, it'll be far and away the best build in the game, bar none. Isn't going to be that expensive like it hasn't been. We still have alternate quality gems. We have all the benefits of Harvest. If it doesn't get nerfed, it's going to be better than ever. So I would say if you're playing Trade League, if you want to play Aura Stack, if you haven't played one yet, we haven't seen patch notes, but unless they literally gut Cluster Jewels, I'm talking, fucking stem to stern, leave them bleeding on the sidewalk, like remove Cluster Jewels from the game, hard cap auras, hard cap reservation, hard cap effect. It's going to be back. It's going to be just as good as always. So don't forget about that. Feel free to invest into that. Another fantastic build is the Blade Vortex build. Now you have a couple different options. You have the fire version using Signal Fire. This is doing an elemental conversion from physical to fire, capitalizing on things like Avatar Fire, Signal Fire for mass damage, using a bow for mass damage, and Synthesize Rings for really boosting your Herald of Ash as a way of prolifing your damage. Of course, Explosion Chest is the icing on the cake. So that's a great build. There's a couple different variations again. You have the fire version with Assassin, you have the poison version with Assassin, you have the fire version with Chieftain. This is a huge contender, and I would say stick to one of these is also pretty safe. You have your Poison Dot builds, and this is the bow variations. You have Toxic Rain, Caustic Arrow, you can even do Scourge Arrow. Mines or not mines, that's up to you, but they're all pretty much similar shells. They work fantastically into the early, mid, end game. Hyper end game, not so much for Toxic Rain, but Caustic Arrow can go deep in Delve. Believe it or not, there is a guy at 6k depth with life-based Caustic Arrow. So yes, there's Awakened Gems. Yes, there's Empower. Yes, he has, as good as gears you're going to get for Trade League for the most part. But this is without Harvest. So, whatever that timeline for him achieving this gear, whether it was month 1, you could speed that shit up. So you too can push to 6k depth playing life-based Caustic Arrow. It is that good. Aranova is that good on the build, and it does push that far. So you could do Caustic Arrow totally into the end game. You could do Toxic Rain totally into the end game. They're totally viable builds. Let's check out one more that I think is going to be super fucking strong, and that's Dominating Blow. So Dom Blow is an insane build. It kind of crept out of nowhere with the rework, and it got even better for single target. So gross melee, physical, and impale-based damage from minions. It has all the fixings of minion supports. From you have a carrion golem for additional damage and call. You have this version's going Mana Guardian type way. That's a really cool way you could build it. If you want to do that way, Guardian is a fantastic variation to go from it. If you don't want to play Guardian, you can play Necromancer. Necromancer version works just as well. It's got a little more of those low life variations, and you can do fancy low life stuff. Again, this is all week 1 trade league, so this isn't that hard to pull off. If you're playing, super hard that first week, you can kind of get to level 90. You can get most of this gear. You don't really need a Vivensect. You can use an Essence Worm. You need a Shavs, sure, but it's not that expensive. The rest of this thing is pretty cheap. You don't need Taste of Fate. The clusters, again, they're aura clusters, but you don't need the 6 passive ID3s like aura stackers kind of want, so it's not that demanding. And if you want to go a more budget-friendly version, you totally can. Here's an example of a real budget-friendly version. Again, they have synthesized rings. You don't need them. They're pushing Herald of Purities. That's totally fine. It's more supplemental damage. You have basically a 6-link Herald of Purity because of your helmet, and a 6-link Dominating Blow. And guess what? They both occur at the exact same time. So, whenever you're doing your attacks, whenever you're doing your Dominating Blows, you're triggering Herald of Purity, and you're double stacking on that. And you end up with just a snowball of minions that do a ton of single target. And the clear's not bad because you're coming in with the fucking squad. You have 40 boys deep, and you're gangbanging people in the streets. This shit looks like LA in the 90s, bro. I'm telling you, it's solid. So Dominating Blow, I think it's a far superior build than the non-aura stacking versions of golems, and I really think that it's underrepresented currently in the meta. And if golems sees some sort of knee-jerk nerf because of how GGG has no real concept of how the game works, and they just be like, oh, let's nerf golems when really aura stacking is the issue. If they do that, Dom Blow is the way to go. But that's enough talking about the, Path of Exile's top hits this past league. Let's just go to the wheel. Let's just get this shit over with. Alright, so on the wheel, I don't have every single Ascendancy. I think, oh, you know what? Actually, I think I do. I think I have every single Ascendancy. And there are some kind of lesser ones that I'm not looking forward to playing. Just being blatantly honest. If I do hit Assassin Winter Orb, that's gonna be a struggle. But, you know what? I'm down for a struggle. I live for the struggle. And there are builds that I just talked about, like Guardian Dominating Blow on here. So there are some banger builds. Deadeye Tornado Shot or Ice Shot. That'll be super duper strong this league. Trickster Toxic Ring. We just looked at that one as well. So we're going to spin the wheel. We're going to get what we get. There's the fan favorite, I want to say, is... the ones I've heard the most hype about when they saw the wheel, as far as people I've talked to, again, Winter Orb Assassin is the meme pull. People really want to see Death Soth from scratch. That's going to be an interesting one with the new Occultist rework. They want to see Hierophant, Ice Spear. They want to see Guardian Dominant. They want to see these sort of builds. So I'm spinning it. We're going to see what we get. Let's go, guys. Let's make it happen. Come on. What do we get? Show me what I get. What the fuck is this? Berserker Wild Strike. Oh my god. That's utilizing the new Trinity support gem also. That's gonna be interesting. How do I make Berserker Wild Strike work? What the fuck? Alright, let's start looking, I guess. I mean, it'll be fine. The reason it'll be fine really is just because the new support gem. This is why it's on the wheel in the first place. Affinity. It's somewhere here. There it is, Trinity. Affinity. So Trinity is the one that makes this kind of cool. It makes it so when you do multiple elements, next time you hit with that secondary element or third element, that thing does more damage, it does more pen, it's just a lot harder hitting. So things like Wild Strike, things like Elemental Hit, kind of get super duper yoked. So yeah, Trinity, level 18, gonna be great. Won't get it till Act 3 because I'm gonna be playing a fucking Berserker, but I've always said leveling as a Marauder caster is one of the worst experiences in the game. But leveling as Marauder melee, totally fine. So I could make this work. This is okay. Have people even really played Wild Strike this week? I mean, mostly Scions, and I bet you most of them are probably using Replica Dream Feathers. Yeah, I kind of saw that one coming. Alright, so remove them. We have a couple... Here we go. We have a Raider. We have a Raider who's doing Wild Strike. This is kind of like what we're going to be doing, except the issue is they're all built predicated upon using combat focuses, which previously is how this build operated. You would pick an element, and you would make sure you don't do that element. You make it so they never choose fire, never choose cold. You only do lightning, and your lightning damage, basically, which was in melee range, would act as a melee arc, which is why they have things like added lightning and impulses, and then the synthesized rings. I'm not going to have that, so I can't do that sort of stuff, but also you wouldn't want to, because the whole reason of me choosing Wild Strike is because of the training support, meaning I'm going to do all 3 damages. I'm going to go crit, and I'm going to play every single element under the sun. But, you know, in the same respect, it makes things like elemental damage that much better scaling, because I'm hitting multiple elements at the same time. We could build some sort of tree. We could make something. I mean, I don't know how Berserker is going to be buffed, but it's gonna be buffed. So in some way, shape, or form. You know, having Pain Reaver pretty much takes care of your mana problems and your leash problems. I have the Berserking node over here. That gives you some max rage. Inherent loss of rage is slower. So that's a mechanic there. Got like a basic frameworky type thing going on here. The icicle part is a projectile. The fire part's an AoE, and the lightning part chains. So it's, you know, I gotta pick things that scale all aspects of them. So things like multi-strike, it is physical scaled, so melee fizz, you know, ancestral call, wild strike, trinity, weapon elemental damage, or inspiration, something like that. Like that 6th link will probably be the backbone of my my situation. I'm not even sure what auras I'll be stacking, because I'm doing all kinds of damage. I might end up going like multiple purities or something. I don't know. We'll figure. It's gonna be weird. Make it happen. Berserker Wild Strike, League Start. If it's a total shit show, I just re-roll and I do something different, like okay, this is just fate, I guess. I don't know what to tell you. Berserker Wild Strike it is. I'm Matt Lighty, and this is my starter build for 3.13. Spin the wheel yourself, get something fun, who knows? Maybe you too will be Wild Striking as a Berserker into the future. And I'll see you guys next time. Lighty out.